feel like the significance of this is that Chucky is about, well, Chucky and his victims, or people of interest. That will represent itself differently in each film, with new characters and old characters alike. The special thing about it, on the other hand, though, is that the characters tend to be just as special as the icon: Chucky and Andy, Chucky and Tiffany. And then those characters are icons in their own way and have their own seconds: Andy and Kyle, Andy and his mom, Tiffany, Glenn, and Glinda. It kind of gets a never ending circle going, but in a good way, because when it comes to newer pairings like Nika and Glenn, you don't need one or the other to tell a Chucky story. Nika had her own story with Chucky and Curse and Cults. Glenn had his own story in Seed, which was expanded on in season 2 of the show. So I guess the next appropriate thing to ask before we can circle back to the main question is what makes each of these special characters necessary for that particular Chucky story. Let's go over some examples. Tiffany was necessary in Cult of Chucky because she played a useful part in including a connection to Alice in the story. As you all know, she, in Jennifer Lee's body, adopted Alice under her real name after the death of her grandmother, which by that point, Alice was actually Chucky possessing her. Alice dies in the process of Chucky using her body to commit murders, because as he puts it, little girls get hurt. Alice and her safety became crucial to Nika upon her discovery that Chucky isn't just some urban legend, which makes this a critical part of Nika's story. Overall, it just depends on the kind of development that is needed, who that development is for, and which character can serve as a pillar to support both. Because when you think about it, Andy and Kyle was the best duo you could have in the first 2 seasons of Chucky. It just makes perfect sense. Andy escapes Harrogate, Kyle successfully completes Plan B, which was killing the original Chucky head while he was in custody, and they're both free to continue their mission, which they see through until they believe that all of Chucky is gone. As of the day I'm writing the script for this video, the Chucky Season 3 trailer was released, which gives us an idea of which legacy characters may be included based off of where they would be suitable to further progress the story, the other characters' development, and how much significance they would have if it's them in that situation as opposed to other characters, like how Andy and Kyle makes better sense for the first 2 seasons than Andy and Karen. We all knew this was coming based on the other promotional material, and that's Chucky being set in the White House. Devin Sawa returns as the president, and once again has a son with Chucky in his possession. So we have a more secured environment where trust is a scarce resource. Who can be trusted in an environment like that? Who can the trio also trust to help them get around the White House without being seen as meddling kids who shouldn't be there? What's a character that already has a history of to trust or not to trust in their story? That alone gives us several options. Someone who could be trusted in the White House that we know of would more than likely be someone from Child's Play 3, a product of Kent Military Academy, moving up in the ranks, such as Ronald Tyler and Kristen Da Silva. Or it could be someone whose trustworthiness has been in question in a very big way, like someone accused of murder as a result of Chucky's actions. And no, that's not Nika, as it was her stability that was questioned. I'm thinking of the Kincaids, Jesse and Jade. Now that we know who could be trusted in an environment like that, I want to take a moment and point out the story split, because it looks like we could actually not only have a duo with Andy and one other pre-existing character, but also a third legacy character who's on their own. Based on the trailer, it looks like there's 2, potentially 3 different plots going on at once. That being the Tiffany and Nika revenge story, the main trio, of course, taking place in Washington, and another Chucky vs. Andy story, one where Chucky is being accompanied by Carolyn. And it looks like Carolyn serves as an opposite to young Andy, as she's just as evil as Chucky and helping him kill people, which is definitely a twist that will spice things up this time around. So now the question is, which legacy characters would be best for which plot? Thinking about it, I don't know if there would be a need for a returning character in the revenge plot, but then again, I also don't know how it resonates with the rest of the story, and how the 3 of them are going to come together in the end, And I guess it's also possible that the Tiffany and Nika story is more connected to the one with Andy, Chucky, and Caroline than I realize. But for now, let's say those two are on their own unless Lachlan Watson's character makes a return, which isn't necessarily someone I count as a legacy character, but moving on. Speaking of the Andy, Chucky, and Caroline story, which I'll just call the evil Caroline story for now, I don't think Andy is going to be alone in the story. Sure, he'll more than likely be without Kyle, since they seemingly did a send-off for her and her duo with Andy at the end of season 2, but I get the feeling that at this point, it wouldn't be wise to be alone, since there's always going to be the possibility that there's at least one more Chucky out there who would do whatever he can to put an end to him. Unless he's able to return to his cabin at some point, which he can't, because as far as I'm aware, he's a one-hit man. Also, the past couple of years have shown him that it's obviously easier for Chucky to influence others nowadays than it was to influence he and Tyler. I don't think that second person for Andy is going to be his mother, and the reason for that being is because I think if they do plan to bring her back, she'd be a package deal with Detective Mike Norris. It's implied in Curse that they're together. I don't know if it's just me or not, but I don't see that happening this time around. I don't see them bringing back Andy with his mom and with Detective Mike Norris. But hey, for all we know, they could be closer to where Andy is now than we think, ready to save him from Chucky like they did over 30 years ago. Instead of a sibling bond, I'm personally betting on this Andy duo to be a romance. I think that that's the one thing about Andy's story that hasn't been completed. He needs to find love and be able to share it with someone who accepts him and his trauma from everything he's gone through, believes what he's gone through, and isn't pushed away by it. Colt showed us that he's having a hard time finding someone on the outside who checks all those boxes. And who's the one love interest we've ever gotten for Andy? That's right, Kristen De Silva. If Chucky Season 3 brings back the Andy and Kristen romance duo, that would leave Tyler as the one who can accompany Jake, Devin, and Lexi in the main plot. And it makes sense. He's not first generation, he was very welcomed by the adults at Kent, and most importantly, he was once a kid that was vulnerable to Chucky until he realized he had to stop him. Not to mention, the actor may or may not have teased a return.
Done conventions before, or have we been really seeing your name before?
Them all down. This is my first in history. Today's history. 30 years I've been saying no, and I decided, because Tyler's coming back in season 3,
Yes.
the new hit TV series, right? I wanted to give the fans personal interaction.
Very cool. We
You guys,
appreciate, dude. That's
it would
awesome.
not be any of us, and you guys are awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And as a matter of fact, you guys would be a very instrumental part of bringing Tyler back. You're going to get a soundbite and you're going to send a message directly to the creator of all child plays.
Don.
His name is Don. Good old Mr. Mancini.
Absolutely.
That's right, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Mancini. I'm going to have you guys look into this camera on the left. I'm come around. We'll do pictures and let him know your love for Tyler and
Anywho, I also want to say that I do still see the door open, at least a little bit, for other characters to return, like Mike Norris, Karen Barkley, and Jesse and Jake Kincaid. I just see the door open for De Silva and Tyler much wider, and I think with Karen Barkley being married to someone who works in Chucky, that it's still definitely bound to happen at some point, even if it means later, even if it means in a later season of the show or a future Chucky film. I also think that Katherine Heigl, the actress who plays Jade, ranks a bit higher in acting, so I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't return in the show at all, but does in the film, which would have a higher budget to pay her. This is not a theory video saying that it's going to be any particular returning character based on clues, but rather one expressing possibility based on context. Like, these are our main options and why. I also want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section who you believe may be returning and why. And if you think no one's returning, tell me why not. I personally think the Chucky TV series will always try to bring someone back that we know from the classic era because the show was pitched as an anthology. The main cast was originally supposed to be fresh each season, and the legacy characters of the B plot were supposed to be the ones that keep coming back. And with that said, thank you for watching this video. please consider leaving a like and subscribe to stay tuned for the next Chucky video that I do. There's definitely a lot more coming for the months of September and October. I don't know how many I've seen my channel lately, but it's been crazy when it comes to Chucky, and it's definitely not over. In fact, you've only seen a fraction thus far. So to my returning viewers, continue to stay tuned, and to everyone else, get on board by clicking that subscribe button and turning on notifications. That's all for now, guys. Until next time, goodbye.